Friends, my friends, would you believe it? Would you believe it if I told you that there was a bar, and that bar was my expectations for Blaire White, and that Blaire White has gone under that bar? If you can believe it, if you can believe such a thing existed, that there was a standard, some like baseline expectation of decency that I had sort of ascribed, that has been violated by her behavior, would you believe it? Don't you worry, folks. Woo! Get out of there. Don't you worry, folks. We only need to watch the first 4 minutes of this video. Trans athlete. I belong in women's sports. Get over it. This is going to be a juicy one, huh? I'm how are we, how's this one going to pan out? I'm curious. Trans participation in sports, that's a complicated subject. Blaire White, renowned for her legendary intelligence. I'm very confident that, she'll have a good take on this. Blaire White, I really do regret my initial debate with Blaire White, because when I first talked with her, I was under the impression that she was kind of like just not that bright and just kind of a pick-me, like a little, I'm trans and I'll make my arguments as palatable to bigots as possible. But now I understand what she actually is. And what she actually is infinitely worse than that. Blaire White doesn't give a fuck about trans people. In fact, I think that she's openly contemptuous of them because they're not her, the one good trans. Let's go for it.
A lot more people that supported me than I expected, especially some of the big name lifters and people that were very well respected in the sport.
Being the first licensed professional male boxer who happens to be trans, I never wanted to be the first. I just wanted to box.
Thanks, Blaire.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video topic is a little bit touchy. Although I'm not quite sure why I'm warning you about that. Have I ever done a single video on a subject that isn't touchy? I don't think I ever have. Y'all don't come here for candle reviews. I'm sure there's someone out there who does it and does it very well, but bitch, that's not me. So
there's a very specific aesthetic she's trying to co-opt, and it's infuriating to watch, It's actually extraordinary. It's like, because everything that she does and is meant to be, she's meant to be a vehicle to be like the one good trans. Everything she does, all of the videos that she produces, but all the videos she makes are shitting on other trans people. That's it. And if you actually look at all of her like video thumbnails, they're always like her making a cute face next to a trans person who's not as cute. That's it. We got over here, here, like this is every single video. Like every single video thumbnail, to juxtapose the ugly, disgusting fake trans people from the real trans person, Blaire, who looks like a woman in the eyes of the people watching and is therefore more valid in the positions that she takes on trans issues. Yeah, it's like weaponizing your attractiveness. It's very Squad W, to be honest. You know how I know Blaire White is a woman? Because nobody else could so effectively weaponize their beauty to shit on other people. That's what I'm talking about, fellas. You know what I'm talking about? Hey, fuck Stacy. Hey, yeah, you get me. All right. Chill out. Calm.
So, let's talk. So we've talked about trans sports before, trans people in sports, but there are some recent developments. Recently, Idaho moved toward banning the inclusion of male to female trans people in girls' sports in college and high school. And on a federal level, there is the Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act, which was just introduced, has not passed yet, but clearly the sentiment is there. The frustration with trans sports is increasing. I've kind of predicted this.
By the way, I just want to say, in light of the fact that, and I admit that it's a complicated subject, in light of the fact that, like, nobody is harmed anywhere by trans participation in sports, like, nobody, and nobody ever gave a fuck about women's sports to begin with beforehand, the fact that everybody is suddenly rushing to pass, like, shaky, quasi-constitutional legislation on the subject is fucking hilarious. It's like, how people will pretend to care about the lives of fetuses to control women's uteruses? This is like that times 10, This is like, suddenly, yes, I have a very strong interest in the legitimacy of high school women's sports. That's why I, a federal legislator, am weighing in on this rather than letting individual school districts and states and cities manage this. I love those. I love those women's girls sports, girls in high school. I love them. That I can only assume that's what's going on in their heads.
For quite a while, that eventually people would get fed up enough to start passing laws about this stuff, and it is happening. In this video, I want to react to some trans athletes, a trans powerlifter, and I also want to talk about female to male trans athletes because I've never actually even talked about that, and I don't think anyone ever usually does. They're kind of, I don't know, people just really ignore that side of the coin when it comes.
True! Based Blaire White pointing out the fact there's not enough representation for trans men. That's true. That's true. It's true.
The whole like sports issue, so we're going to talk about that and all of the bans and what my personal feelings on the bans are. So let's get started with Janae Marie Kroc. She's a trans powerlifter, and here's her story.
Was being like the most intense, the craziest. So I was like the alpha of the alphas. And so I was like the last person in the world that anyone suspected. And that's what made it, I think, even more shocking and made it more difficult for me to come out. A lot more people that supported me than I expected, especially some of the big name lifters and people that were very well respected in the sport. And that was really nice to see. But the fan base, there were a lot of people that were very upset about it.
Okay. So disclaimer, I have no hatred in my heart for Janae.
That's always a good start right there, by the way. Whew, disclaimer. I have no hatred in my heart.
I think Janae seems like a really nice person and obviously is an amazing athlete. I mean, trans aside, anything else that's a part of the story aside, you cannot deny that that is some amazing bodybuilding. Like, that's crazy. Like, who looks like that? Like, no one looks like that. And I am not trying to make fun of her appearance. I know people will just run to that because people like to just say I'm a big old meanie rather than a...
There were so many ways she could have phrased that. She could have been like, what incredible athleticism or something, but instead she has to be like, who looks like that? You know, people say I'm mean, and I say who looks like that when I'm talking about a non-stereotypically bodied trans woman. You know, who looks like that? But it's just a coincidence that whenever I talk about trans women who don't look exactly like me, that all the language I use is incredibly condescending and underhandedly insulting.
Addressing any of my points, but I'm really not making fun of her appearance. I mean, I think that obviously her appearance is outlandish, and I think that even she would admit that, because how could she not? But
it's like, Jesus Christ. Yeah, you know, it's just like, have you ever heard like a racist person try really hard not to be racist? You know what I mean? Oh, yeah. Oh, that guy Jamal? Oh, yeah. No. I wasn't like worried about him or anything. Yeah, no, just like I just haven't seen many blacks. I mean, I just haven't seen many African-American people, you know, like in this part of the, in this part of the neighborhood. I was just worried. I didn't know if he was like a, well, it's not that he was like a gangster or anything, or I don't know if he has like crack or, well, I'm not saying that he has crack. I'm just saying it's a possibility with anyone. Just, I didn't know. Like, you've heard people who are clearly bigots, like dig themselves deeper. That's how Blaire White talks about like every fucking trans person. It's incredible.
But that's not the point. The bigger...
Wait, hold on. Ploppercon in chat says, so Vosh, is that trans woman really not at an advantage over your average female lifter? Like, laughing my fucking ass off, man. Interesting interjection, comrade. We'll be getting to your good faith criticism shortly. I notice, by the way, we haven't talked about that trans woman competing against other cis women yet.
The point is, the idea, the concept of Janae competing against biological women is ludicrous. It's almost intentionally.
Notice how Blaire will only ever use the term biological women. Like, do you think that Blaire White would appreciate being called a biological man? By her own standard, that's what she would be called. That's what she would call herself, too. Like, do you think she looks at herself in the mirror and calls herself like a biological man? I would imagine not. I'm guessing probably not. I imagine that probably not. I imagine that she would be willing to call herself a biological man if she was debating like Ben Shapiro, you know? Like if she's having a conversation with some other conservative, she'll be like, yes, I recognize I'm a biological man, but do you think that's how she thinks of herself?
Ignorant, and anyone who thinks that that is some sort of level playing field.
I don't know why I'm asking that, because I'm of the opinion that she has incredibly low self-esteem, so I'm pretty sure she actually would call herself that. I don't know why I went on that tangent.
Is a liar. You're lying to her, you're lying to others, and you're lying to yourself, sweetie. The idea that
Sorry, I'm just going to go back really quickly so we can experience that one more time.
you're lying to others, and you're lying to yourself, sweetie.
Oh,
The
yeah.
idea that
Oh, yeah. That's, what's that oil that doctors will used to give you to make you throw up? You know, that is some, like, concentrated medical cringe. Whew, okay.
Janae, who transitioned well into her adulthood
Ipecac, yeah.
and developed completely male, can now compete against women.
Wait, didn't Blaire transition in adulthood? Wasn't Blaire 18 or 19 when Blaire doesn't Blaire literally advocate that you shouldn't be able to transition until adulthood? I remember I've watched Blaire White's videos in the past. She says that any kind of child, even though it's medically backed and verified, so all trans people, I guess? Is Blaire in support of child transitioning? Blaire's positions on trans people is completely informed by whatever will get her the most transphobe dick, basically. So the more affirmation that she gets from conservative cis people, like, that's it. Like, that's the entire threshold right there, you know? And that's it. So because right now, conservatives have kind of moved off trans people a little bit and have now moved to, like, trans children. Notice that, by the way. Remember how back in 2016, 2017, and 2018, the discourse was about trans people in trans bathrooms, but now it's all about child puberty blockers and stuff. They've moved the discourse because they lost on the adult trans front. The acceptance of adult trans people has been widely spread over the past 5 years. So now they're getting on the child thing, and again, you know, fighting against legitimate scientific consensus, but they've moved the goalposts over. So of course Blaire White has to chase that fence.
Is bad. It's a bad idea. It's a failed idea. I mean, the audacity of anyone to pretend or insist that there are no very obvious benefits that Janae, as someone who developed completely male well into her adulthood, would enjoy when competing against people who did not develop male.
That's interesting. I don't know what position Blaire White is arguing against here. I haven't seen anybody in this video, Blaire or elsewise, claim that there wouldn't be an unfair advantage for this person to be competing against cisgender women. I haven't seen anybody make that claim. It's very interesting that Blaire White is arguing as though there are a bunch of people. Maybe this weightlifter herself is competing against women, or she defends it or something. We'll see.
The audacity of anyone to pretend or insist that there are no very obvious benefits that Janae, as someone who developed completely male well into her adulthood, would enjoy when competing against people who did not develop male is insanity. And something we don't often see is that Janae actually went back.
I do want to say, by the way, I am being won over a little bit by Blaire's arguments here. There are probably some physiological advantages this woman has. I say probably sarcastically, of course. She's enormous. Against cisgender women for a variety of reasons, you know? So assuming Blaire White is correct in her assertion that this powerlifter is competing against cisgender women, I might actually be on board with what Blaire has said, you know, cringy behavior aside.
Post-transition and competing against men, just because, I guess, like, it was kind of like, she's gone back and forth competing with men and women.
Wait a second, that's interesting. Blaire White is making fun of her for competing against men. Wait, hold on. So she goes back and forth. Blaire White is making fun of her for competing against men. You really can't win, can you? Man, if you're a trans athlete, like, you can't even compete, like, no matter what. Like, are you gonna say there's an unfair advantage for her against cis men? Is that how that works?
Based on I don't know what. I mean, that's just a dick move. No pun intended. Okay, pun intended, but I'm a fucking tranny, so I can make that pun. Anyways.
What's the trans version of Uncle Tom? You know? Ugh, what a N-word. I'm black, though. I can say it, you know? Yeah, no, we got. By the way, Blaire White does have a penis. So, again, Blaire White's insistence on making fun of other trans women for having penises is exactly as applicable to her. She is as much of a penis as I do, you know? So her insistence on joking about that is very strange, especially when she's made videos saying that she, as a trans woman, is ashamed of her penis in sexual situations and doesn't like it being emphasized when she has sex with other people. So it's really, really, really weird that she would make fun of other people for that. Anyway, we don't have to go any further into the video, because I you know what? Honestly, I've been won over by Blaire White. She's got me. I don't agree with the idea that this woman should be competing against cis women, you know. So the only thing that could possibly move me over at this point is direct evidence that this woman isn't and has never competed against women and has openly said that she has no interest in doing so. Let's go 3 comments down. From Janae Marie Kroc. Blaire, I really wish you had reached out to me before making a video including me and spreading a bunch of misinformation. If you had done some research ahead of time, you would have known all my records and championships were achieved in the men's division. I have never competed as a woman, and I have been vocal about the fact that I have no intention to. I respect your right to have your own opinion on trans athletes or any other topic, but spreading misinformation only causes more problems. If you have any questions or would like to discuss this further, feel free to reach out. And I have been unwon over, it seems. Dude, fuck Blaire White. Are you fucking kidding me? Blaire White, what, your views were down, so you were just like, let me find this trans athlete who's done everything right, who competed against men, and go and say that she's competing against women, and that there's a ton of people who are defending her competing against women, make a bunch of jokes about her appearance, make jokes about her having a penis. Holy shit, Blaire, you are such a fucking pick-me. You are so unbelievably desperate for approval and affirmation. Listen, Blaire, there are other better trans women than you. I'm sorry, you just kind of suck, okay? You're not like the one good trans woman to conservatives, okay? You're the dog they get to roll out as the excuse they have for being a TERF or for being transphobic, and then they get to point at you, okay? You're the black friend. Like, it's not impressive. Plenty of people have been in your position. It requires very little effort on your part. I'm sure you're enjoying the attention that you get from it in the short term, but you do realize, like, they'll do this to you when you get older, right? You're young and pretty now. 10, 15, 20 years down the line, this exact same cycle is going to repeat. There's going to be a trans woman who's even younger. They do this with everybody else, too. Being the turncoat, being the one good one, is a very, very precipitous position. You are balancing on tokenism is a dangerous position, okay? And you're bidding into administration that's trying to destroy you, by the way. The Trump administration, by the way, guys, every single time the Trump administration removes rights for transgender people, Blaire White writes an article on, like, the post-millennial defending it, you know? Every single time. Blaire White doesn't give a single fuck about trans people, because hurting trans people is a general, it's a probabilistic thing. If you take away one right, how many trans people will it affect? Probably not all of them. It'll affect some of them. Blaire White is wealthy and privileged in her position amongst other Republicans, and for that reason, harm done to trans people isn't really going to affect Blaire White that much. Blaire White has money. If things get really bad, Blaire White can just move to Canada and then continue making videos about how Donald Trump isn't transphobic. Like, Blaire White can do anything. It doesn't matter, you know? Blaire White could move to... They could start sending out anti-trans death squads to start gunning down people in transition. Blaire White would move to Canada and make videos about how the transgenders who are complaining about it are snowflakes, and they're really just executing people for violating, you know, Law Prop 1837B612, which is, of course, you know, making it illegal to be trans. Is she not Canadian? Is she Canadian? She lives in America right now. I don't fucking know. Whatever the case may be, look, the powerlifter also made an Insta post. Is this Insta? Yeah, this is Insta about it. Yeah, like, this is not a representation of my beliefs in all trans athletes, only my personal choice for myself. If you see comments or posts in other places, which I'm sure many of you will do, you know the truth, and you so feel inclined to feel free to correct whoever is posting misinformation. Thank you, everyone. This is indication, by the way, if you are, and I personally, I have nothing but respect for fucking yoked people, but from Blaire's perspective, any trans woman who doesn't look exactly like her is probably unattractive. So from the perspective of Blaire White, if you don't look like her, if you don't meet the beauty standard, if you're, you know, an embarrassing trans woman, i.e. you don't look like a Barbie doll, Blaire White doesn't give a single fuck about you. Not a single shit. You are a ladder rung that she will make fun of to step up on. You exist only to be featured in her videos, where she will make shit up about you in order to form a narrative that allows her to make fun of you to an audience of hundreds of thousands of transphobes who will be making comments in the chat about your appearance, scrutinizing everything about your life, all based on a bedrock of misinformation that she deliberately put out there because it was convenient for her narrative. She's a terrible human being. She is not an ally to trans people. And really, the only thing exceptional about her is that she is a sheep who has managed to survive in a wolf's den. Not, I imagine, through any tenaciousness or cleverness on her own, but in large part because she can lure other sheep in. So, yeah, just not, it's not impressive, okay? It's not impressive, all right? It's disgusting. And if you're not the right trans woman, there's nothing you can do to earn her favor. Absolutely nothing.